Welcome to this episode of Creatively Speaking. I'm Leanna Weller-Smith, the Executive Creative Director at Weller-Smith Design, and in this episode, I will be speaking with Tessa Arias, the chef, author, and owner at HandleTheHeat.com. When she was a young blogger, she was approached by a traditional publishing house to produce her first cookbook. She talks about her experience, what she learned, and how she took that experience to go on to produce ebooks, products, and more. She's full of insights in this episode, and I hope you enjoy.
Hey, Tessa, I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Hey, Leanna, I'm excited to talk to you.
So I'll give everyone a little backstory here. So Tessa and we met through Basecamp a few years ago now. I think it's been 3 or 4 years, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we met through Basecamp, Todd Herman, his 90-day year, and Tessa and I started working together in an interesting fashion because Tessa didn't really know what I did for a long time, and but everyone knew what Tessa did because Tessa is an amazing baker, and she is the owner, creator of Handle the Heat, and it's an awesome website, but it's a whole lifestyle brand now. And we on Weller-Smith Design, we've had the opportunity to get to work with you on a few different levels and different capacity with branding and web. We've never worked on book design, so we'll have to figure that one out for the future. But I'm bringing you on here because you have published a couple of different ways, some book products, and I know that my people that are listening, I know that they're going to be really interested in your story. So just give us a little background on you, Handle the Heat, what you do, what you've built it to be, and just to give everyone a little backstory.
Yeah, so I actually started way back in 2009 when I was starting college and wanted a creative outlet. And it's obviously grown a lot since then and evolved a lot since then. And so once I finished school, I finished culinary school and a regular, 4-year bachelor's degree. I gave myself that summer to see if I could match my blog income to the income I was making at my previous job. And I did, and that was in 2013. And so since fall of 2013, Handle the Heat has been my full-time business, and it's continued to grow in both, revenue and the model that the business is. It's evolved a lot and changed a lot over the years. And the audience has grown, so it's been really fun and exciting, but it's also been interesting because just the industry itself in a relatively short amount of time has changed a lot. Mm-hmm. And even in the last year has changed a lot. So I'm constantly trying to figure out how can I better diversify? How can I kind of look ahead and see what's coming, what people are going to want, what people are going to be interested in, and how they're going to take in information. And so when I was kind of deciding, could this be a career? Is this just a hobby still? I actually got the opportunity to publish a cookbook. And so that kind of shifted the lens through which I was looking at this, because it suddenly became much more real, because there's just something about having a physical product with your name on it that just, for whatever reason, it validates you and it validates your ideas and your business and who you are. So that kind of steered me onto this course that I'm on now.
That's really exciting. And I've seen part of the path that you have taken, and you are very good at pivoting and also listening to your clients and your customers and your community as to what they actually need and next and what they want from you as a business. But then you can pick and choose those things that actually fit within your model, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. When I first started my blog, it was just a blog where I documented my kitchen adventures. And it's evolved into something very specific and niche down now, where it's all homemade baking recipes with an emphasis on the science of baking. And that evolved both because that's what my community was most interested in. Those were my most highly trafficked posts and videos and recipes. And it was what I love to do most. So it kind of became this perfect, mingling of what I love to do and what my audience is most interested in. And that's kind of what's informed my decision making.
And I think it really shows through in all of the content that you do create, because you can tell nothing is forced. Everything, it flows really freely. And I think that obviously the community gets that as well, which is why they keep coming back for more. My son loves your stuff. He wants me to bake like you. And I'm like, I don't know about that. but I will try. I make the cookies and they turn out really good.
Oh, good.
They look like the picture, but they tasted amazing. And
That's what matters.
I think that's really what counts in my book on this at the house here, especially with him. But so with the cookbook. So did a publisher come to you because they found you online, or how did that evolve for you?
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy because I had been blogging for several years just as a hobby, and one day got an email from an agent, and I thought it was spam, and I deleted it.
That's great.
Because I was like, who found me? Like, who plucked me out of obscurity? This is not real. It's just some like spam, whatever. And so she emailed me again a few days later, and I was like, So I Googled her, and she was an actual agent, like legit. And from there, I mean, it kind of happened pretty quickly. Within the next few months, she had helped me write a proposal to sell a book idea to publishing houses. It actually ended up going to auction. Several houses bid on it. And then like 2 years later, the book was published from when she had first contacted me. So in one sense, it all happened really fast at the beginning. But in another sense, it took a long time for the initial idea that, to write a book actually came into fruition. I was holding it in my hands, and I learned so much along the way. I knew nothing about the publishing industry, about creating and writing a book and then selling a book. And what I came to realize is I was finishing school at the time, so it was a kind of a good transition into a professional job where I was basically following like, this is how you write a proposal. This is how you write a cookbook. These are the rules you need to follow. This is a template. This is how it's best done. And I was creative and had fun. Writing the book wasn't the hard part, crazily enough. It was selling the book. That was the hard part. And that's what I thought the publishing house was there to do. And what I came to realize was I didn't have a huge name. I had enough of a following for them to want to buy the book and sell it, but not enough for them to put a huge media campaign behind it. And so I learned a lot about marketing and publicity begrudgingly through all of that, and realized all of the things I could have done to sell the book better and to make it more successful. And so I kind of took that process, coupled with the fact that I had given up so much creative control in that process too, because when you're working with an editor and a publishing house, they have a way that they do things, and it might not always line up with the way that you want to do things. And when you sign a contract and you have all of these people who are experts at what they do telling you this is how it should be done, it's hard to stay firm to your opinion because, it's a lot.
No, it's a lot. And like you just said, like there are all these other pieces and parts, like people, and there's not only do you have, the editor, the publisher, but you have the sales reps. And I know on my side as a designer working for these publishers, I could give them 15 covers and the sales reps are the ones that'll say, but that's not going to sell, because they are the ones that are going out there. They're the ones that are talking to the, Barnes and Noble and all the different brick and mortars. And they're the ones that are actually taking this book, this dummy or whatever they're going to send, they're going to take out there, these, sample pages, they're going to sell it, and they know. And it is hard to explain then to the creative on the other side, which is the author like yourself, because you do have a creative vision for it. So
yeah, and I think it's interesting because I feel like a lot of authors are authors first and foremost. At least that's how the model was. Yeah. And now we're getting to a place where a lot of people are becoming authors because they already have a business. And so they might have a more entrepreneurial side to them, or they might understand marketing and sales and strategy. Like this design works just not because it's pretty, but because it will actually convert and sell. And someone will want to pick it up off the shelf and actually buy it, or it'll catch their eye on Amazon, whatever it is. Like there's so much that goes into it. Like it's something that, so I ended up actually doing everything in reverse order. I published a physical hard copy book with a publishing house, and then went on to self-publish ebooks, e-cookbooks. Yeah. So my journey is kind of all crazy and weird, but like I learned a lot through it.
But I think that's interesting because I've heard this, sort of journey both ways. So some people, they get traditionally published like yourself, you learn all these great things, and then you you can actually see now what is really going to work for you, and not necessarily needing of a publisher anymore, especially now with the following you have.
Yeah.
And there's tons of people just like you and creatives that have gone through that whole process. And the thing is that people, they sort of romanticize the publishing process, and well, I'm going to get an advance for this, I'm going to get this for that, and I'm going to get help, and I'm going to get publicity. And you may, but it's not going to be at the level that you dream of, that everyone.
No, not at all. And the thing, I don't think at least I didn't realize, and maybe I was super naive, but you get this advance and it's a big chunk of money and it seems really great. First of all, you have to pay taxes on that money. Second of all, you have a lot of expenses when it comes to writing a book. Like, as a recipe author, I'm having to buy endless amounts of food and test recipes. And then you're also taking time away from other projects that could be making money. And I think that goes for obviously some topics are more expensive to create books on than others, but what seems like a lot of money in the long run, if you calculate how many hours it takes to write a book, it doesn't pan out the way that you might think it would. And when you're also giving up some element of creative control with a publishing house, I think that either you're working with a publishing house who you are really well aligned with the people on the team, they have an amazing marketing strategy for you, all of that is squared away. If it's not, then I don't think it's worth it to go through a major publishing house.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm still working with a lot of the major publishers, and I appreciate every bit of work that they send my way. But it is true when it comes to the end goal, right? A lot of people that they're bringing on now, I've gotten a few people, different food bloggers, projects, so that they get published, and it's a cool thing. And what's cool is I actually know their style, so it actually helps. It's actually a good thing that if I do bring somebody in to get published, because I'll get to do their cover, their interiors, which is great. But I also have brought them, I've suggested them because I can see their following, I know their style, and the publishing house actually, trusts my opinion, not on every book, but it's interesting to see, but you also have to look at those numbers. You have to look at what their following is, how marketable are they?
Yes.
And the publishers, they will do stuff. They will still do stuff, but it's just not, it's not to the level that a lot of online entrepreneurs are at now. I feel like when I watch someone like Lewis Howes, launch their book, they did go through a traditional publisher, but they had the means to do some really cool things with the marketing of it. And it's totally different now from the regular publishing model. It's totally different. And it's so much more it involves the community. It involves getting people on board and to kind of promote you and your book. And it's interesting how things have changed. But that leads into even with your next step, which is then the ebook. So I do want to take one step back, which is the book that you did get published. Did the agent help you then figure out what to actually write the book on based on what you were working on? Did she help you kind of come up with little niche items?
Yeah, she had the insights of what was marketable, what an idea, what something that could succinctly be put into a proposal that an editor could see on a shelf, that could see someone purchasing it. What's something that is marketable essentially. And I didn't know that back then. I think I have a better idea now.
You have a better idea now, oh, definitely. And that's what I think too, that is the plus of having an agent. That is, even if it is just for your own sake, knowledge, and say it's something that maybe you don't necessarily want to get published by a publisher, but if you want to educate yourself on what is marketable from somebody who knows that business, it is, I think it's very, it's a good idea to kind of hook up with those people and to find out what is selling, what the trends are, what would make your, somebody want your book, whether it's traditionally, or if you're just going to take that information and create your own piece and sell it on your own.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's also just helpful to have someone, whether it's an agent or even someone like yourself, that knows the publishing industry, because it's such a crazy beast in itself. And It has like its own language, and people, it's crazy. And you might think you're getting a good deal, but it might not be, because there's so many little details that go into it. And it's just, you have to be knowledgeable about it before you make any decision, whether to go with a publishing house or to self-publish, or, you know, ebook versus physical book. There's so many things that you can do in so many ways, options, which is great. Like, especially in this day and age, it's great to have so many options, but sometimes you need some help navigating through them, because it's a lot.
Definitely. So then you went from a traditionally published book to ebooks. So talk us through that process. What happened there?
Yeah. So my traditionally published book was on ice cream sandwiches. So it was homemade cookie and ice cream recipes combined for ice cream sandwiches. My cookie recipes online had already been popular, so it's kind of how that topic came to be. And then about 6 months after I published my cookbook, I actually released my ultimate guide to chocolate chip cookie post online on my blog, and it went totally viral. Like, if you have any interest in baking, you've probably seen this image, whether it was attributed to me or stolen.
I remember that.
Yeah, all over the place. I totally did not expect it to happen. It was not planned, but it went totally viral, and I just thought, there's something here. There is something that people are interested in here, but I don't know if it's enough for me to commit to a full published book that would take 2 years to get to market. Because, you know, by the time you propose the idea, get it signed, write it, then it's manufactured, then you have a release, like, it takes a long time. I wanted to capitalize on this momentum that I had created through this viral blog post. So I decided to create an ebook, and, you know, it was a crazy process, because suddenly it was all in my control. Like, suddenly I got to make all the decisions. And since I had been through the process of working with a publishing house and an editor, I had some understanding of how everything worked. And so getting to make my own decisions was amazing. It was so much more fun, so much more gratifying, so much faster, because, you know, I think it took maybe 3 months from the idea to getting it out there, like writing the content, photographing the recipes, finding a designer, figuring out how to actually sell it online, like, because I had never sold something online before, and how to, you know, get people to get their hands on it. And since then, it's made, in the 3 years post publishing that, it's made as much money as the advance for my first.
Interesting.
So that's really interesting. I mean, the advance, it's like all in one lump sum and just suddenly arrived. So this was more spread out, but at the same time, it required so much less work that I think, you know, that ended up being more profitable.
Sure. And I think it's also a little bit more like fulfilling to have
personally fulfilling.
Yeah, personally fulfilling to have known that you were able to create this on your own terms and the way you wanted, and without having to go through all of the, you know, kind of hoops that, you know, that jumping through all those hoops that they do have you go through when it comes to the books. I mean, even for design, I think we usually take a good 6 months. If it's on fast track, it might be, you know, 4, but like, you know, it's even just the design, and that's like, that's after everything. That's after all of, like you said, it's like after coming up with the idea, getting it written, having it photographed, making sure that everything is right with the editors and things like that. So now with the ebooks, what was the like biggest challenge with those, or was there a challenge at all when you were working on them?
The challenge for me, and again, you'll see this theme reoccurring, is it was selling them, like marketing and asking for sales. So it was so easy for me to write the content, develop it, and then get it online. Like, with technology and the internet, like, it's so easy to come up with something and put it online and offer it for sale. Right. But actually getting people to buy it and to turn on that like sales cap, that marketing cap, where, you know, instead of offering all the content for free, like I had been doing on my blog for so many years, I was suddenly packaging it up for something that cost money and asking people to hand over the credit card information, which was, I learned a completely different skill set than anything I had, you know, learned before. So that part was the most challenging for sure. But now that I've kind of overcome that hurdle and have hired help with that side, now I see all these other ideas and options available. And the funny thing is, I think eventually this will all come full circle, because I get so many requests from my customers and readers to publish a physical version of that book or an extended version that's
Right.
a similar theme or topic. And so eventually I think I might pursue that as a self-publishing route, because I already know in my head exactly what it would be, what it would look like, what the price needs to be, how many units I would need to sell to make it worth my time and profitable. And since I already have an audience and a business that's successful, I don't need to be, on the Today Show in order to sell a book.
Exactly.
Obviously that would be fun. That would be great. But at this point, what I can offer a publishing house is more equal than it was a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, I felt like they had all of the power, they had all of the value, and I was just an author. Whereas now I have a business, I have a following, and I have an expertise. And so that gives me more control, and I want to maintain that control because it's just so much more satisfying too. And getting to work with people that I want to work with, like yourself, like we have so much fun working together. You get me. And so like, I don't want to work with people that don't get me. And so I don't know. It's a crazy process. And I think what I learned at the end of the day is you have to make it work for you, your resources, your goals, and what what you see at the end of this. Is it more clients, or is it a big media presence like a TV show, or do you want to just write books? Every year come out with a new book. I have a few food blogger friends who they actually prefer writing cookbooks over blogging and over social media, and they don't like that side of it. That side supports their author career. And so everyone is so different. You just have to figure out what works for you. And with technology in today's day and age, you can absolutely carve a path that suits you and complements your personality and your goals.
Oh, most definitely. And, I always talk to our publishing clients about what's your goal with this book? Because that really is like, a lot of people feel as though they want to, become famous, and they want to have this from their book, and they want all of this. And you will get what we're calling star author status by, publishing, but at the same time, it's different for everyone.
Yes.
And it really depends. Like, so we've been seeing a lot of our authors that are self-publishing, they get these opportunities that they never would have even thought of through their book. So they could have a book on, female empowerment, or, all these, anything, health and wellness, and they think it's going to help a certain person, but then they get like all these doors open up in different ways. And it's really amazing, like, to see that, like, just having this piece that helps you get to that expert level status, but then also opens up other opportunities that you didn't even know were going to be there. I think that is also another.
Absolutely. And that's what, to go back, of course, I would do things very differently now if I were to go back to when I first published my traditional book.
Right.
But at the same time, that created legitimacy, and it gave me something to stand behind that fulfilled a career goal. Like, it allowed me to do what I'm doing now. I don't think I would be able to do it had I not had this like legitimate author status. Whatever it is, whether it's you believe that that's deserved or not, like
right.
It is how people look at you, like blogger versus author, or influencer, whatever it is. Like, it's just different, and it just opens you up to another caliber of opportunity and impact.
So when you started to learn more about actually selling and publicizing the book or your ebooks, and what did you learn? Like, what kind of tactics did you take? What did you try and didn't work out? Like, I'm curious, like, where you started with all of that, and then how, and where you can see things changing now.
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I realized was this is my belief, you cannot create a book or any product in obscurity. Like, you cannot create it in a funnel, in a vacuum where you have to make it perfect before it's seen by anyone in the world. If you already have an audience, a client base, a customer base, or a following, readership, whatever it is, the product will sell if you co-create it with them. Mm-hmm. If they feel like they're involved in the process, whether that's helping you pick the name, or even the cover from Leanna's beautiful designs, or whatever it is, like, involving your audience in the process instead of feeling like it has to be perfect before it can ever see the light of day. If that's how kind of I did it the first time. Mm-hmm. And I basically kept it a secret until I felt like it was ready to be revealed to the world. And I'm not like Kylie Jenner, so I can't like release a product and it's sold out in 2 seconds. And obviously she's using a lot of other sales tactics there. But what I realized is, you know, people follow you online for a reason. They want to feel connected with you. They want to feel like they're a part of something. And when they feel like they're a part of creating a product, you bet they're going to buy it. They're going to buy it for their friends. They're going to send links to their friends to buy it. They're going to be your little salespeople and advocates sharing this beautiful creation that they helped you with.
No, it's so true. And I feel like, you know, when you involve the community, and that's the other side of it, it, like you said, it brings them into the whole process and they want to be part of it. They want to sell it. But then it also like actually opens you up to different ideas that maybe you just weren't like, you really weren't touching on it. Like you were just kind of like, oh, I didn't look at it that way. So
totally. Because then you end up creating exactly what they want without having to be a mind reader.
Right, exactly. No, totally. Well, you are super great at nurturing your community, and I know that if any of them are listening to this and they hear that you're going to be doing possibly a cookbook in the future, they are all going to be all over that, and you won't hear the end until you do it. So I'm going to hold you to that one.
Oh, no. It's so much work. But that's the other thing, too. You have to have help. Like, you have to have help. This is so much work. It can be so fun and rewarding, but you can't do it by yourself, nor would you want to. There's so many amazing people who are incredible at what they do, like yourself. And, you know, getting to see you turn someone's vision into reality, into something that can be held or interacted with online is such an incredible experience. Like, you've done that for me, and I've seen you do that for my friends and other, you know, people in our industry. But it's super cool to have something in your head and translate it to something that someone gets to enjoy and share with their friends and family. And like, at the end of the day, if that's the thing that you have in your mind, it'll all work out.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, like even on my end, like that's the part that I like. I like that end product. I like seeing the client like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I thought and more.
Yeah.
And you know, it is true. It takes a team to do these things. Like, and even if you're doing it by yourself, you still need to engage with, you know, either your audience or other people, get opinions, and it's always so much fun, more fun to work on it with someone else.
Absolutely.
But to wrap this up, do you have any tips that you would like to just kind of leave off with, or talk about anything that you have coming up? I'd love to, you know, share anything that you're working on.
Yeah. So actually, and your team helped me create my online baking class, which was like a level up from the ebook. So it's something that goes way more in depth into the topics I teach, which is about the science of baking. So my online class is called The Magic of Baking. And actually, I came up with that name because I had done a little beta testing, a little trial period of offering a class, and realized that I was taking it way too seriously. And I was intimidating my audience and making them think that they had to want to be professional bakers in order to take my class, which was not the case at all. I wanted it to be inclusive of everyone who loves to bake. And so that was something that, had I not co-created that first iteration of the class with my audience, it would not be what it is today at all. And what it is today is something that they actually want.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just little things like that. And just have fun with it. I think, like, whatever you're doing, that would be my biggest takeaway. Just enjoy the process and have fun with it.
That's awesome. Well, Tessa, again, thank you so much for meeting with me.
Thanks, Leanna.
Like I said, I could talk to you forever, so I really appreciate you taking the time.
Of course.
And, we'll be sure to include all your links and all the goodies that you have so people can download stuff and buy your ebooks. So, and your ice cream cookie book. So
yeah, buy it all. No,
we're just on the tail end of, you know, summer, but I think it's still summer in a lot of places. So
it certainly is here in Phoenix.
You are, for sure.
Yeah.
But thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, thanks, Leanna.
Thanks.